gossip. If you're going to kick black people out of their homes, make sure they have the money to stay on their feet. Cut a dang check.
They come, don't pay to be fake. Time keep on ticking, it ain't gonna wait. Switch up the mood, I ain't vibing with you. Some of my homies ain't homies with Snoop.
I was in the kitchen, I was cooking on the come up. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Smiles World. Trying to stay consistent with it, as always, as usual. If you haven't joined the family, hope you will. Hit that like button and comment and subscribe for me. You feel me? Cost nothing. Got two. We got part 2 rolling. So if you was in there with part 1, then here go part 2. I ain't gonna hold y'all up, you know. Let's get into it.
Number 11, Old Jefferson, Murfreesboro. Once a small town located at the original seat of Rutherford County, the town was abandoned and burned down in anticipation of a flood that never came. In the 1950s, some group of construction engineers told residents that their town would be permanently flooded to create Percy Priest Reservoir. Eventually, the town was torn down, hauled away, and its remnants were burned down. However, as the new reservoir filled up, the water did not extend as far as originally projected due to underground caves at what is now Long Hunter State Park. Although there are rumors that some old foundations and some remnants are still left in the area, a visit to the site of Old Jefferson wouldn't be complete without checking out Percy Priest Lake and other sites like Long Hunter State Park. Number 12, Old Danville Grain Elevator in Stewart County. Danville, Tennessee was once a thriving river town situated on the banks of the Tennessee River, near Kentucky Lake, and a central link between Memphis and Louisville. The town was an important commercial center, known for its bustling docks and recognizable grain elevator, which was a major hub for local agriculture. However, when the construction of Kentucky Lake in the 1940s led to the flooding of the area, much of Danville became an underwater town. Despite the town's disappearance, the large, iconic grain elevator still stands tall above the waters of Kentucky Lake, a striking reminder of the town's past and a notable landmark for those visiting the area. Number 13, Johnsonville. Johnsonville, Tennessee, was a small rural town established in the early 19th century. It was situated in Humphreys County, near the confluence of the Tennessee and Cumberland rivers. The town grew steadily, with a population of around 1,000 residents by the mid-20th century. However, the town's fate was sealed in the 1940s, when the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, began constructing Kentucky Lake. The lake was created by building a dam on the Tennessee River, which would flood a vast area, including Johnsonville. In 1945, the town was officially abandoned and its residents relocated. The buildings, homes, and infrastructure were either demolished or left to be submerged by the rising waters. Today, Kentucky Lake is a popular recreational destination, attracting tourists for boating, fishing, and other water sports. Meanwhile, the remnants of Johnsonville remain hidden beneath the lake's surface, a ghostly reminder of the town that once thrived there. Number 14, Elkmont. Nestled in the Great Smoky Mountains, National Park is a fascinating remnant of a once thriving logging community and a popular vacation spot in the early 20th century. Now the area is largely abandoned, a true Gatlinburg, Tennessee ghost town, which offers a glimpse into the past with its dilapidated cabins and historic structures. The National Park Service has been in the process of restoring many of these historic buildings since the early 1990s, with 16 cabins now preserved, restored, and open for total public access. As you wander through the overgrown paths and old homes, the eerie silence is often interrupted by whispers of the town's former residents, believed to linger in the shadows. Ghost stories abound, with visitors reporting mysterious sounds and apparitions, especially in the old resort buildings. Elkmont is a must-visit for those intrigued by both nature and the supernatural, inviting exploration of its haunted tales. Number 15, Elba Woods, North Dakota. Elba Woods was one of several Native American towns along the Missouri River, which were permanently flooded following the completion of the Garrison Dam in North Dakota in 1953. The town was established in 1891, to be the local Indian headquarters for the region's Hidatsa, Mandan, and Arikara tribes. By the 1950s, many of the natives in town had become Christians and operated the gas stations, stores, post office, and other businesses typical of a rural town of a few hundred people, as well as the reservation's main school and hospital, also located at Elba Woods. The reservoir that formed behind the Army Corps of Engineers Garrison Dam was named after Sacagawea, the legendary Shoshone Indian woman who guided Lewis and Clark through the mountains of Montana. 200-mile-long Lake Sakakawea, the third largest reservoir in the country, flooded a quarter of the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation, forcing the relocation of over 325 families, which was about nearly 80% of the population on the reservation at that time. Many moved to a newly established community called Newtown, where now about 1,500 members of the three affiliated tribes live a modern life with a large casino.
Jermaine struggled for years with dental issues before finally finding Nuvia. Listen to what he wanted most after his smile makeover.
I want to be.
Number 16, Kennett, California. Though the old mining town of Kennett was a faded relic of its boomtown self, by the time it was flooded by Lake Shasta in 1944, it was still home to 100 people. Like other gold rush towns in Northern California, it was established for mining and prospecting in the region in the 1950s, but it wasn't until a railroad camp was built in 1883, with over 1,000 Chinese laborers, that the population began to rise substantially. Gold was discovered nearby the next year, and a post office came in 1886. The largest copper smelter on the West Coast opened in 1950, and by 1911, over 3,000 people lived in town. The hills around the town were exfoliated and denuded by the acid fumes from the smelter, and farmers in the valley 15 miles away began a suit against the company that operated the smelter for destruction of their crops. The mines closed after the end of World War I, the smelter soon followed, and Kennett's population fell over the next 2 decades. The town now rests beneath 400 feet of water, along with many of the region's smelters, paint factories, and mines, and their surrounding despoiled soils. Number 17, Neversink, New York City. Neversink, whose fateful name is said to be derived from the Indian word Newasink, meaning continuously flowing, was the larger of 2 communities that were removed from the reservoir site in 1942. The other town was called Bittersweet, and there, a total of 340 people were evicted from the valley, and about 6,149 acres of land were condemned. Some buildings were relocated to nearby towns, though most were bulldozed and burned in a final harvest. Trees were removed, cellars were filled in, privies disinfected, and even barnyard manure was said to have been dug up to maintain New York City's reputation for having the finest quality drinking water possible. The Neversink Reservoir began to flood the land on June 4, 1953, and took 2 years to fill. Number 18, Butler, Tennessee. Butler was known to be the largest single community and the only incorporated town removed by the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, throughout that entire massive Depression-era public works project to modernize and electrify the rural parts of 7 southeastern United States. Butler was the commercial center for the Watauga Valley in eastern Tennessee and the only real town in the region, with a population of around 600 people. It was a typical southern town with 2 barbershops, 2 beauty parlors, markets, the Bluebird Cafe, hardware store, drugstore, a few service stations, a few hotels, 3 churches, a rail station, Masonic Lodge, a Brick City Hall, bank, and doctors and dentists' offices. Located in the forested hills of Appalachia, local industries were mostly wood-related and included a lumber company, a crating company, a furniture company, and a casket company. In 1948, when the floodgates were closed, the Watauga Dam and Reservoir began flooding 458 square miles along the Watauga River, with over 735 families already displaced. About 175 buildings, including shops, barns, churches, and homes, were moved to higher ground, to a new town site named New Butler. Most buildings were demolished on site, and about 1,200 bodies were moved from the graveyards. Some families opted to leave the graves of their ancestors undisturbed, so they are still there, along with a reported slave graveyard that TVA crews never found. When Old Butler was exposed in the 1983 drawdown conducted to service the dam, Don Stout's shoe store, made of stone, and the one-room jailhouse, made of concrete, stood out from the other foundations and building pads along the muddy streets, still lined with trees, long dead but preserved by the water. Number 19, Enfield, Massachusetts. The scenic New England villages of Dana, Prescott, Greenwich, and Enfield were disincorporated on the same day, April 28, 1938. Over the next year, the valley was demolished and deforested by over 1,000 woodpeckers, immigrant workers from Boston, who at times ran amok in the doomed landscape, living in the vacated houses along the main streets, burning churches without authorization. Some of the old buildings were moved to other towns, but most were bulldozed into piles and burned, as was 30 square miles of forest. The valley was on fire for months. In all, just 2,500 people were relocated, and 7,000 bodies were reinterred from local cemeteries to higher ground. The Quabbin finished filling in 1946, and it had no flood control, electrical generation, or navigation functions. It was built for one purpose only, to serve the drinking water needs of Boston, 60 miles away. Still called the largest single-purpose reservoir in the nation, it served as the city's primary water source. Number 20, St. Thomas, Nevada. In the desert Southwest, St. Thomas was established in an area of available water, in this case the comparatively lush Moapa Valley, 50 miles northeast of where Las Vegas is now. The town started as a Mormon outpost in 1865 and was later part of a chain of agricultural communities in the valley following the Muddy River, including Moapa, Logandale, and Overton, that were otherwise surrounded by arid desert. St. Thomas had a peak population of around 500 people, and for a while was known for producing cantaloupes and asparagus. A railway spur served the valley, and US 91, the main highway to Los Angeles before Interstate 15, went through town, making it a stop for motorists. In 1938, however, as Lake Mead crept northward, filling in behind the Boulder Dam, St. Thomas, located at a lower elevation at the southern end of the valley, was flooded. At the moment, due to regional drought conditions, portions of about 40 buildings are visible at the exposed remains of St. Thomas, including the Old School and the Hanig Ice Cream Parlor. Also visible is the foundation of the Gentry Hotel, where former President Herbert Hoover stayed in 1932 while inspecting the nearby construction project he had helped to create. Each of these towns represents a different element of America's development, yet they all share the same fate. They, and hundreds of other communities like them, were vacated, demolished, and flooded to make way for dams and reservoirs. Their remnants persist, preserved underwater, and sometimes emerge as haunting, painful reminders of what was not allowed to be.
Cut some dang checks. That's it. If you're going to kick black people out of their homes, make sure they have the money to stay on their feet. Cut a dang check.
In too many parts of the U.S., these ugly stains of the country's racism are being preserved while eliminating memories of the thriving black communities that once stood strong.
You can pay their descendants too, because generational wealth is one of the many things that is destroyed when you put black communities underwater. So cut a dang check.
These black ghost towns and communities once stood strong and tall as a testament to the strength, innovation, and independence of their residents until they were destroyed by white American mobs and government. However, as earlier mentioned at the start of this video, it's no mistake to say that the U.S. is a country that went from enslaving black people to wiping out the communities they built post-slavery. Today, most of its white citizens are prohibiting the teaching of that history, while simultaneously promoting a false account of that history. A good instance of this is seen in Florida's new African American Studies curriculum that teaches students that enslaved people saw personal benefit from their captivity. It is a heartbreaking testament to the legacy of racist cruelty that too many Americans insist on upholding. In order to create a better black society, we all have to come together to share and confront the pains and plight of African Americans, both in the past and in this modern era.
Well, we done came to the end of part 2 of the cities, towns that were flooded, replaced by parks. I said in the last video, I was like, we need free power. No, we need free housing. We should be able to have any house of our choice without paying anything, not a dime, because they built it. Like I said, after post-slavery, they built their own community. We had our own community. I'm talking about they're not them. I mean, they're not us. Us, we're not one. You know what I mean? But we had our own community, and now the roles have reversed where the other race wants to have their own community, and if we enter sometime, if they can overpower it and want us out. Everything that I'm speaking is just my opinion. You're allowed to drop your opinions and how you feel down in the comments below. But I appreciate y'all watching. And if you haven't hit that like button or subscribe, then I'll be dropping more YouTube content that you might enjoy. So until next time, I'm out.
Get you a bag, peep how they move. Focus my vision and watch what I do. Put on the gas problems in the review.